Sometimes car designers will design a car which never gets its recognition that it deserves, or a car which just immediately fades into the pages of history. However, there are some cars out there that not many people know at all, that still had a great legacy. So these are just a few of the cars that never got the recognition they deserved. This is a Dodge Daytona and it's not a muscle car. Despite its looks, this thing didn't have a V8 under the bonnet. It had a 2.2 litre turbo unit that produced 185 horsepower, which was pretty impressive for a car like this. This came at a time when muscle cars were very underpowered. In fact, the 5 litre Mustang barely made 200 horsepower and the 5 litre Camaro barely made 185. So this thing was pretty fast and it handled well too. In fact, there was a version near the end of this car's life that produced 227 horsepower, and there was even a version that was tuned by Shelby. Atlantic was a French supercar, something unusual already. The reason this thing is underrated is that it was designed to compete with Honda NSX and Ferrari 348. It was mid-engined and had a V6, as many French performance cars do. It also has a turbocharger. In fact, there was also a twin-turbo version and a very limited production version which had 400 horsepower and looked like an F40. It was supposed to go racing, but unfortunately the car was pulled out at the last minute, and that's a shame. And amazingly, these things can be very, very cheap, but only 700 were made, so this is rarer than a Porsche 918. The Twingo GT is the sporty version of the third generation Renault Twingo, and this was a huge change for the Twingo name. This car was now mid-engined and rear-wheel drive, and it shares about 70% of its parts with the Smart Forward 2. But that doesn't mean that this car is bad. This thing is just about as close as you can get to a modern day Renault 5 Turbo. This thing is mid-engined, turbocharged and rear-wheel drive, and from the front at least, it looks like a rally car. So, why was this thing so unpopular? I guess we'll never know. The Lamborghini Urana was a Grand Tourer with a V12 that was capable of 155 miles an hour. This thing was built mainly for the American market. It was a stylish car, and I think less than 400 were ever produced. It had 326 horsepower, and that was a lot, and it looked pretty cool too. So this thing never got the recognition it deserved, even though Ferruccio Lamborghini himself said that this was his favourite car. The Suzuki Vitara was introduced as a larger alternative to the Suzuki Samurai. It's a bit bigger, more comfortable and less utilitarian. But, unfortunately, unlike the Samurai, it never contains the same cult following. And that's a shame, because this is a very good off-roader. It's very comfortable, it's much more usable, and comes with 5 doors, as opposed to just 3. So, why didn't this get any recognition? Well, I don't know. Maybe one of the reasons is, in the UK at least, it was sort of seen as, I don't know, a bit weird, maybe even a bit girly. But that doesn't matter. I mean, this is a fantastic car, and it's just been so slept on for such a long time. This is the Genesis GV60. It's the only EV on the list and one of the most underrated modern cars ever. This thing beat Tesla. I'm just going to say it. This thing has a 0 to 60 time 4.1 seconds compared to the Tesla's 4.4. It's also got a much nicer exterior, thanks to styling, and a much nicer interior, which is very well equipped and very, very comfortable. This thing is fantastic, and at £54,000, it's not bad. Now, the Ferrari 348, okay, I love this car. I don't see many problems with it. Look at it first of all. It looks like a classic Ferrari that you would draw if you were a child. It's got a mid-mounted V8 engine that sounds glorious and produces 300 horsepower. It's also one of the cheapest Ferraris that you can buy, used obviously, and it's one of the last, I think the last, properly analogue Ferrari. So why didn't it get the recognition it deserved? Why do people hate it so much? Guess we'll never know. This is the DC Avanti. It comes from India. This is India's first ever proper sports car, and it was a complete failure. Only 463 were ever produced, and this car was produced for about 4 years. It has a 2-litre turbocharged Renault engine, and it produces 310 horsepower, and that's pretty good. But it never got the recognition it deserves for a first sports car. So there you have it. These are just a few cars which are just completely underrated, and well, they never got their time in the spotlight. So, what did you think of this video? Did you like it? If you did, please subscribe for more in the future, and until next time, goodbye.